I believe I am live. And if that is the case, welcome to today's special edition of Con Salsa, in which I have two very special guests who will be joining me momentarily for a conversation with regards to an upcoming event that takes place here in the city of Boston. Hoping that you can join us on that date and also on a celebration of 50 years, not of this program, but a very special organization that provides services for the elders here in the greater Boston area, in particular in the Roxbury area of Boston. So my name is Jose Masso, coming live from Boston, Massachusetts. Haven't been on Facebook or YouTube for a while. We've had technical difficulties, which I'm still trying to figure out when it comes to the music, because I want to make sure that you're able to hear the music the way it should be heard when we do this kind of programming. But nevertheless, we'll have a conversation with our two dear friends. And then at a moment when we are able to have music, I will announce it so that we will have guests that include music as part of the programming. Wherever you are, thank you for being part of Consalsa family. We've been celebrating the 50th year of Consalsa. We celebrated 49 years anniversary this past June 22nd. We're now in the 50th chapter of programming. I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of the Consalsa family. Saludos y bienvenidos a esta edición especial del programa Consalsa. El nombre mío es José Mazo de la ciudad de Boston. Primer día de otoño 2024. Today is the first day of fall 2024. So welcome to fall. We had a great summer. I hope you did as well. And as I was saying in English, let me say it in Spanish. Como había dicho en inglés, estamos celebrando 50 años del aniversario del programa Con Salsa. O sea, celebramos 49 años de aniversario el día 22 de junio. Estamos ahora en los 50 años de Con Salsa. Así que le doy las gracias a cada uno de ustedes por ser parte de la familia Con Salsa durante este tiempo de programación. Para esta tarde tengo dos invitados. No tendré música. Lamentablemente, no sé si se recuerdan, la última vez que hice el programa tuve algunas dificultades con la música y parece que tengo algún problema con la tecnología que no permite que la música suene como debe sonar. Así que hoy voy a tener la conversación. No será larga, pero voy a conversar con mis dos invitados y luego, cuando por fin pueda arreglar la cuestión de la música, tendré música para ustedes en esta programación, donde tengo una lista de invitados ya listos para estar con nosotros en las próximas semanas y los próximos meses antes de concluir el año 2024. So, one of my guests is someone that is a dear friend and is both a photojournalist and a community chronicler. And he has been chronicling the lives of many of us here in the city of Boston. He is renowned for a particular book that he published titled Portraits of Purpose, a tribute to leadership, in which he included Ken Cooper as part of this endeavor. Ken Cooper writing the bios that accompany the photos taken by our dear friend Don West. I'm one of those who's included in this photo journal, and I am so honored to be one of those that you can see includes Mel King, includes Frida Garcia, Nelson Mandela, just to name a few. But today what we're talking about is a personal project of his. He will be auctioning some of his personal photos from international travels that he has taken throughout the years. And this is in combination with the 50th anniversary of celebration of Central Boston Elder Services. The event taking place at Amart here in the city of Boston, and it will be on October 3rd from 5:30 to 8 p.m. There'll be refreshments, and I'll have the honor of serving as the auctioneer as we celebrate Don West and his history as a photojournalist and some of the great photos that are his personal photos. They're not the photos that you see him documenting our community, but the ones that come from his own personal archives. And it's all for the benefit of Central Boston Elder Services. So we'll be speaking with Don, and we'll also be speaking with the director of Central Boston Elder Services, who will be celebrating their 50th anniversary. That's happening in October as well. So we have a lot of celebrations taking place throughout the city of Boston. But let me first bring our dear friend Don West to join me and give him a welcome. Don, thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful day as we celebrate the first day of fall. Greetings to you and your lovely Libby, hoping that you're both doing well.
Thank you very much. And all that to you, Jose, and all the people who are listening to you so often. But if I may, let me just congratulate you on the honor that was bestowed on you by Embrace Boston and the city of Boston last week, and on Count Salsa. Amazing afternoon on Boston Common, which I think is going to be an annual event. So, muchas felicidades.
Thank you so much. It is going to be an annual event. And speaking of which, you were so kind as to be there and document,
Ah,
as you have done for the last 50 years, many of my adventures. And that photo we take to heart here at the Massot family, as that one with Eddie Palmieri, who received the Drum Major for Justice Award for all of his great work, using his musical platform as a way of creating consciousness when it comes to social justice and equity and inclusion and diversity. And of course, my family who was there with us. Thank you very much for documenting these moments for these beautiful photos. And I thank the people for Embrace Boston for making this possible. And like you said, we'll make this a yearly event to kick off
yeah,
Latino Heritage Month every year. So next year will be a 2-day event starting on September 13th. We'll do Saturday the 13th and Sunday the 14th of September. But it was really a memorable day in the Boston Commons. And thank you for being there. And Libby
yeah.
for joining us both during that day. So, Don, before I bring Sylvia on, who's the CEO of Central Boston Elder Services, let's talk a little bit because this is somewhat different. When we think about you, we think about you as a photojournalist who chronicles all of these moments in our life experiences. I mentioned your fabulous book, Portraits and Purpose, but this one is very different because this is very personal. Tell us how we got to this point that you thought, you know what, let me share my personal photos.
Well, let me say it's a combination of client and personal photos. But I've been traveling quite a bit around the world, aside from my Boston-based work. And in particular, I wanted to highlight for your audience my work in Central and South America and Cuba. I visited them on many occasions and created exhibits from those trips. The trips to the Latino area of the Americas was for Acción International. And Acción International is a micro-lending organization throughout the Americas to support and help small businesses. And they even created a bank in Bolivia. So it's been a great experience. My wife, Libby, was the development director for Acción at the time. And so it was wonderful for the both of us to travel to all of these different locations.
And that being the subject matter, I'm sure that when people see the photos, it's not just one photo, it's a series of photos of all of these places you traveled to, correct?
Well, true enough, yes. They're sort of broken down into different exhibits. There's an exhibit on Cuba, and the exhibit in Cuba was during the Fiesta del Fuego where is it, over Guantanamo side of the island I'm
It was in
forgetting the name.
Santiago. It wasn't Santiago. You didn't do
Santiago, sí,
Santiago. Okay.
Santiago. And then we did in Guatemala, in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina. So there's pieces from all of that in that particular exhibit. But I've also been to China, the Middle East, and Africa. So there's exhibits that come out of those areas as well.
And there's an exhibit that's of particular interest to me of the great Tito Puente that you documented on a number of occasions, but you have a series of photos from the king of Latin music that are unique.
That was here in Boston some years ago. And this particular exhibit is, I think it's a series of about 12 images. And they're not huge images. They're about 8 by, maybe 11 by 14, but it's a series. And so you see him at the drums playing in all of these different expressions that he has when he plays. So it's really quite a dynamic piece.
So when we show up on the 3rd and we see these photo exhibits, they are mounted, they are in glass encased, and they're a series in color, some are in black and white.
That's right.
And what is it you're hoping that will be accomplished that day when our audience and others join us at AMARC?
Well, the reality of all these exhibits is I have shown them a few times, but not very many. And that's why the people of Boston really haven't seen these images. But what I'm saying is retiring them and retiring the exhibits. And I wanted them to go to a good home. And in my work in Boston many years ago, Central Boston Elder Services was my client.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, wouldn't it be great to auction these off and have people have them in their home, and Central Boston gets some money from it in terms of a donation to help them do the good work they've been doing for 50 years. So that's kind of the basis of the auction. So everything, as you just said, is framed and ready to go.
Well, I appreciate that you're doing this on behalf of Central Boston, but I also appreciate that those who would be acquiring these photos not only could put them in their home, they can put them in their offices if they have
True.
offices and businesses and whatever the
Right.
lobbies
Right.
of wherever they want to place them because they are ready to exhibit type, museum ready to be
Right.
exhibited wherever they might be. And we're doing this in a very special place. Let me put up the flyer because we're doing it at AMARP. Tell people what AMARP is and the history of AMARP, and in particular your role in AMARP.
Well, AMARP stands for African American Master Artist in Residence Program. And it's a part of Northeastern. We're an adjunct program at Northeastern for the past 40 some years. It was founded by amazing artist Dana Chandler
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. I can't even remember the year, but he was a fantastic political and artist who did work that just shook everybody up. Let's put it that way. So he was there in fact for many years. And about, I don't know, it's been about 15, 20 years ago, perhaps he moved on and the leadership went to different hands over the years. And we're still there, located in Jamaica Plain, and we're very community based. So the whole place where we're in now was founded on a community based situation to give access to the community for their arts programs and their different social programs. And so we're still there. We have about a dozen artists that have studios there and a great community connection.
Well, I love that you mentioned Dana. He would do good trouble, as you have done as well, using your art as a way of bringing consciousness to all of us when it comes to issues impacting our communities writ large, but also you documented. I always use that African proverb adage that says, until the lion told the story of the hunter will always be glorified. How do
Right.
you see that applying to your work, Don West?
Well, it's interesting you bring that point up because that's how I really began my work here in Boston. I was at the time I was noticing how people of color were treated in the media, and not so good, and particularly visually, it was always negative kind of coverage. So I wanted to do something that gave an uplift to people of color in leadership. Frederick Douglass, if we all know who he was, a great abolitionist and orator back in the late 1800s. He next to Abraham Lincoln was the most photographed person in that period of time, and he did it for a very particular purpose, and that was after slavery. He wanted to bring up the attitude towards black people and give them dignity and respect, and so he did purposely dress in a certain way, attitude in a certain way. Visual is a big piece of communication, and so I took that to heart, and always slided a little bit on that side of all of the news and different community activities that I was involved with.
Well, Frederick Douglass is exhibited in a very powerful manner in the Smithsonian, one of the Smithsonian Institute museums in Washington, D.C. Davina and I went to see it, and it was amazing. They had a bust, so
Yeah,
there are different combinations of way he's being shown, right? It's
yeah,
both through paintings, it's through
right.
photos, it's a bust, et cetera, et cetera. So to your point, it's another way of amplifying who we are and that we are people and that we have presence and that we should be respected in all manifestations, which brings me back to this book, which is Portraits of Purpose, which I think is right now probably one way of us really re-examining and revisiting and understanding the work that so many people have done, not only here in the city of Boston, but throughout the world, because you include Nelson Mandela in this, as far as amplifying and using our purpose driven lives to make this a better world. And I commend you always for this book that is still very much being used all over the place. Last year when the NAACP celebrated their conference here in the city of Boston, it was very much front and center as part of the vendors that were there showcasing this particular book so that people could go back to their respective cities holding this book as one of the things that they took away from the city of Boston. So congratulations to you, Don West, for making that happen.
Well, I appreciate that.
And that being said, let me bring Sylvia Exantus, who is the executive director and president of Central Boston Elder Services. We'll be celebrating, as I mentioned before, let me put this up, 50 years, the golden era, a time to remember, a gala and expo, Central Boston Elder Services. Sylvia, welcome to Consalsa. It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jose. And I just want to echo what Don West said about congratulating you for all the achievements and acknowledgement that you've received this year, and also for your celebrating your 50th anniversary as well.
Why, thank you. Sylvia, so Don, has opened his heart by saying, I've got these beautiful photos that I've been archiving and showcasing everywhere, but this is an opportunity for us to use these photos in a way that there's some benefit to a particular organization. And he identified Central Boston Elder Services as being that organization, which I commend him. And also, I acknowledge is very important, because if there's an organization that's doing the kind of work that we appreciate, especially Don and I, where we are at that level of time in our lives where we've already entered the third stage of life, if you will. We appreciate anyone who's providing services for folks that are in our age brackets. So, Sylvia, talk to us as to how something like this, what Don is doing, complements what you're doing with the gala that you'll be celebrating in October as well.
I think Don hit on a couple of points when he was speaking earlier about it's not too often in our community that we have opportunities to celebrate. Oftentimes, when you see either people of color or immigrants or someone from another place, it tends to be something negative.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Central Boston has been, as you all know, it's very difficult for an organization to make it to 50 years. There's a lot of things that have to go right for you to do that. And we've also, along the way, we've had our own set of challenges. But one thing is the steadfastness to be in the community to provide services to elders is just something that we're so proud of. And Don extending his generosity, and again, I thank him so much for that, doing that. From coming to our launch event back in the spring, he reached out to say, hey, how can I help? I'm very excited about what the work that you guys are doing, and I'd like to partner with you. So the synergy was just there between Don and the mission of Central Boston. Just really, they go together very well. And so it's a real nice opportunity for us, and something different too that we may not have had access to otherwise.
I love the marriage of art through photos and service through Central Boston, and the recipients of this service receiving the benefit of Don's work. And when you speak about images and where we are at this day and time, I think it's important for all of us to acknowledge that things are not normal as we understood normal to be. We don't know what the new normal is going to be, because we've gone through 5 years of pandemic, but we've also gone through, already about 10 years of this public discourse, which includes a lot of vitriol, in particular, to your point, Sylvia, when it comes to, marginalized communities and recent immigrants and how they're portrayed, and how the stereotyping and everything that you can imagine is being thrown out there as a way of dehumanizing, me people, particularly people of color, people who are immigrants and marginalized communities. And so I think that this is another opportunity, not just for us to gather and pay respect to the work of Don West, but also to gather as a community, supporting each other in this moment, and knowing that we are stronger when we are united, and that our diversity is what makes us powerful. So I think that this is a two-part opportunity for us, right? We have the opportunity on October 3rd to gather at AMARP. What better location to do this, which is located at 76 Atherton Street, Jamaica Plain, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. We have that opportunity for those folks who still want to participate, because I believe there's still some tickets available at the Central Boston Elder Services 50th anniversary, which takes place October 26th. That's another opportunity for us to gather and celebrate as a community, but also show that our diversity is what makes us powerful. And Sylvia, speaking about the gala, just so folks know, this is taking place on a Saturday, and it's early, right? It's like 4:30ish, 5 o'clock, something like that. Give the specifics about the gala.
Yes. So the gala, very excited about the gala. It's going to be an expo and a gala. So you'll be able to get some very vital information from the different vendors who are also sponsoring our event. I believe we'll have about 8 there to share very valuable information to everybody that attends. So that'll be from 4:30 till about 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., we have a fun-filled program for everybody with dinner, live entertainment. We're going to try to obviously raise as much money as we can, but we're also going to make it fun. We're going to get dressed up. Looking forward to seeing everybody in their most beautiful black and gold items and wardrobe. When people of color and diverse folks, Jose, as you know, when we show up, we definitely show up,
We
and we
show up.
definitely dress up. So please come out in your best, attire. But you know, and really, you're going to hear about the history, the legacy of Central Boston, but you're also going to hear about the future and the things that we need to focus on, because there are some significant needs in our community, and we'll get to talk about that a little bit, as well as celebrate a very special milestone. And we have 3 phenomenal honorees in Beulah, Providence, from the Caribbean Foundation. We've got Frida Garcia, who you mentioned, a pillar in our community, who is also featured in Don's lovely book. And we have our esteemed state senator, Liz Miranda, who is a champion for elder issues and people of color. And they will be receiving the Drum Major for Justice Award.
I
And
love it.
so we're very, very excited about what we have in store. This is only the beginning for Central Boston. So just like you, we're looking for this to become an annual event, and really talk to everybody and get everybody in the community excited about some of the things that we're doing.
Well, I love it. I love that you're paying tribute to some of our esteemed leaders of our community. I think it's important for us to uplift, amplify, salute, applaud, and acknowledge all of our stakeholders who have taken a step further to just make sure that our community writ large is whole in every aspect that we can be whole. Don, when we think about this event that's taking place on the 3rd, I just want to make sure that people know that they should contact you
Mm-hmm.
and that they will be able to park. They'll be parking nearby at
Right.
the community servings parking lot. And so, therefore, that's right around the corner of Amy Street. So, you're just a block away. It's not even a block away, it's just a short
Yeah.
distance, a walk away. So, we've got refreshments, we've got exhibit, we've got the great location, we've got parking, and we're doing all this for a good cause.
Let me just add one piece on there, and that is RSVPs would be very appreciated. And there's a phone number. I think maybe I can't read it on the screen, but it's to Davina Masso. Sylvia, do you know her number right offhand?
Well, here's
Not
I
off the
see
top of my head, but I can tell you what it is from the
Yeah.
blog.
617-618-8290, I think.
8290. Yep.
And yours is 617-524-1975.
Right. So RSVPs would be great. We just want to know how many folks are coming so we can have enough goodies for you.
Refreshments and the derms, as they
Refreshments.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's good. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking time on this beautiful day to join me just to share some of this information, which I think is valuable for our community to know. We're doing a lot in the city of Boston. I'm so happy that the city of Boston is celebrating so many different events throughout the city at so many different places and venues and open to the public in many ways. But there are events like this one which have a purpose, which is, of course, of raising funds to continue the services at Central Boston Elder Services, both through the auction of Don West's photos and through the gala and expo that takes place on October 26th. So once again, The photo auction will take place October 3rd, which is on a Thursday. It starts at 5:30, ends at 8 p.m. It will be at AMARP Studios, 75, is it?
76.
76
76.
Atherton. 76 Atherton Street in Jamaica Plain. And we look forward to seeing everybody
And
there.
if you're traveling by the Orange Line, you get off at the Stony Brook Station.
There you go. Stony Brook, right around the corner. And
right
then
around the corner, right?
we will see folks that evening, and then we'll see folks on October 26th at the
Right.
Boston Cambridge
The Hyatt
Regency.
Regency. Yep.
Right there.
575 Memorial Drive in Cambridge.
Memorial. I'm looking forward to that. So, Sylvia, thank you for the great work that you continue to do serving our community at Central Boston Elder Services. Again, as one of the persons that I'm in my third stage of life, I appreciate everything you do for my cohort of third stagers. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to both of you, blessings, and thank you again, and much success. Look forward to seeing you on both occasions.
Look forward to seeing you all.
As well, Jose and Dawn, I can't thank you enough. And on behalf of the Central Boston Board of Directors, the leadership team, and all the staff, we appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you very much.
Be well. Blessings. Ache.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.